Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Business with a servant's heart. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk on life. Our guest will share his life story. We want you to success in life. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk on life. We're gonna talk on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are gonna witness. Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Business with a servant's heart. Listen to the podcast.
Let's educate our especially our founders and leaders more, and entrepreneurs need to know this too. I think. What's the biggest mistake they make when it comes to employee engagement?
Well, definitely, we've already kind of hit on it, but the biggest mistake is asking for feedback and not doing anything about it.
Okay.
The lack of action, because that's the only thing. And I would never say to somebody, don't ask for that feedback. Don't do employee listening, but doing it and not taking action is actually worse. So if you're not going to take action, don't ask, right?
I want to invite you into the Business Network, my free school community for entrepreneurs and business owners who want to grow their network and scale their business. Inside, you'll get step-by-step lessons, monthly workshops, feedback, scripts, resources, bonuses, and a community of like-minded people who believe in helping each other win. Join us today at school.com, the Business Network, and click Join Group. I'll see you inside.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona, and I got a unique guest today. I'm going to say these two words, employee listening. Now, I've interviewed over 980 people. Never heard that before. It's powerful because when you're a servant's heart, what do I tell you all the time? Listen, listen, listen. Ask, shut up, listen, ask. And we're going to learn all about that today. Before we bring the guest on, here's our gratitude for today. And it's Friday. It's summer. This is perfect. Thanks for spreading sunshine wherever you go. God, this can't describe my guest any better. Let's bring her on. Jeannie, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much. I am very happy to be here on a Friday, a sunny Friday at that. So, yeah.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's going to be 100 here in California, but we're up alive and we're doing a great podcast.
Love it.
Employee listening. Please describe that for us.
Yeah, so I think the best way to describe employee listening, and there's lots of different opinions about surveys and things like that, but I think the most important thing about employee listening in any organization is you're making employees feel heard, which increases engagement from the get-go, but you're also going straight to the horse's mouth, as they say, to uncover whatever the real problems are in your business. Your employees have they have the answers to what the problems are, and they often have the answers in terms of what the solutions are. I think too often a lot of leaders in different organizations will assume they know, or they'll try solutions when they don't maybe necessarily have the right problem pinpointed. And so employee listening is just step one, I think, in a way to make sure that your internal stakeholders are doing the best they can because they're receiving what they need to be the best that they can be.
And it's important because money's important. Shouldn't be the top of the list, but it's got to be somewhere. Tell us if people listening and they have employees, does my revenue increase when my employees listen better?
Yeah, I love that question because I've made a little motto for myself inspired by the Beatles, which is that money can't buy happiness, but happy employees can produce revenue. So that's my little motto. And if you look at all of the Gallup research, right, which is our mainstay for data, Gallup, and this was just the end of 2025, so 6 months ago, we've got engaged employees result in 10% higher loyalty and engagement from customers, first of all, 17% greater productivity from your employees, and all of that means 23% higher profitability. So if you have engaged employees, your profitability is going up 23%. They also report that any organization that has, it can be called high engagement, right, sees 2.5 times higher revenue growth, right? So you're leaving money on the table if you're not investing in employee engagement. Even if your business grew 2 times in the last year with employees who are struggling, it could have grown 4 times with employees who are thriving.
So I make $1 million in 2025. Six, well, I'm a year behind. Getting old. We implement some of the stuff that you're going to bring to my company. You're looking at 230,000, average potential increase. That pays a lot of bills.
Yeah. It pays a lot of bills and it gives you a lot of room for growth, right? It's not just about maintaining it. It's about I work specifically, I try to work specifically with mission-driven companies, right? And for me, what that means is that you can fulfill your mission more, right? The more good you can do, the more revenue you have. And that comes from happy, engaged employees. And it makes sense because we've all encountered unhappy employees somewhere, whether you've gone to
Yes.
dinner and you had a waiter that really didn't care what kind of experience you were having, or you've called that customer service line and whoo, and that impacts the brand because you're gonna tell people about that. You might not go back to that restaurant. Your customer experience starts with your employee experience, and that's why this really matters.
You're so smart, Jeannie. That is so brilliant. Because I had George on, a good friend of mine, just yesterday on a podcast, talking about restaurants. It's a great vision for people to understand. If you go there and the food's great and the service sucks, the employees aren't listening using
Mhm.
your vernacular, which I love, you probably won't go back.
Right.
But the food's subpar, it's edible, it's okay, but your service is off the charts. You
You go
just
back.
change the experience by the employees listening.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm
Exactly.
hearing.
Yeah, and that's it. And one of the main surveys that I like to do is the employee engagement survey that Gallup does. It's called the Gallup 12, right? But the reason I like it is that it's based on something called the employee hierarchy of needs, right? There's only 12 questions on that survey. People who are doing employee surveys that are pages and pages of questions, they're getting themselves into the weeds. They're digging a hole for themselves because they're not going to be able to act upon everything they're asking about.
Yeah.
And that's worse than not asking, right? Like if we know anything about employee engagement surveys and employee listening, it's that if you ask with no intention of acting, you're doing more damage, right? So there's only 12 questions in this survey, and in each level, it's based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which most of us are familiar with from high school.
Yep.
But and it's that thing, like if you're gonna say, I'm gonna give a pizza party on Friday, that's fine. But if Fred in IT actually needs a different, you know, program to be getting his job done every week instead of 3 programs, that pizza party's not gonna change how he's performing.
I am going to add this to this. Don't do pizza parties.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, do your quarterly
Yeah.
events. And I'm not saying not to do that. But yeah, if you're doing it's a band aid for
Yeah.
heart surgery, it'll just, band aid will pop off and you'll explode. So let's bring value. Let's educate the audience.
hmm
People listening that have employees go, Jeannie, love what you're saying. What's my first step?
So I do think the first step is, I mean, a lot of companies are doing ENPS quarterly, right? That's pretty common. Uh, if you are doing that already, well, if you're not, at least at bare minimum, do that, right? It's 1, 2 questions. Um, But make sure that after that comes in, you have someone in your company, or you're bringing someone like me outside of the company in to do this, that you are analyzing that feedback. You're not just going, okay, we gave them a platform, right? You're listening to what that feedback was and you're making action plans, right? I have various levels of services where I will do this just for an engagement survey, or I'll do it with then follow up pulse surveys. You can do manager surveys, but at the very least do an ENPS, right? And analyze the data, and then from that data, create at least one action that you can do visibly, state it out loud and in all hands, right? This is what we heard. This is now what we're going to do about it before the next one, right? A lot of companies, even if they do just that one survey, and again, that's where you start, if they don't say this is what we heard, and they don't say and this is what we're going to do about it, they're going to see participation levels go down. And for some leaders, they'll be tempted to go, that's great, nobody has any complaints. But that's actually a really big red flag that either you're missing psychological safety, so people don't feel like they can speak up or something bad will happen, or they just know like I'm not going to be heard, so it doesn't matter. And you really don't want to be in either of those places. So start with that ENPS, but then beyond that, I would say get yourselves an employee engagement annual survey. If you have the bandwidth, someone in the company, or the budget to bring someone in to expand upon that and do pulse surveys that dig deeper into those results, that's gonna make a difference because you're gonna know that the problem solving you're investing in is actually addressing the real problems in your company, right? So
And you
and
come
that's where you're
in,
gonna grow.
right. Yeah, and you come in as a fractional in audience. That means
Yeah,
she's not full time; she's part time
yeah,
at the hours that you need her.
yeah,
Which I love fractional because this is something. I think the problem with this is people try to do it on their own. They don't know how to analyze the data,
yeah,
or they can't get people to participate. Because I've heard talk to leaders like I've done surveys. I have 100 employees and I get 10 surveys back. How do
right.
you fix that?
I do think that in some ways, having someone from the outside come in can kickstart that because now it's an outside kind of quote unquote neutral force, right? One of the things I do if I come in is I start before I send any survey out, I'll do my own all hands with the employees, sort of explaining who I am, what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, the point of employee surveys and listening, like I give them the spiel I just gave you, right?
Yeah,
And that the point of having me and doing the surveys is to then hold leadership accountable for addressing it, right? Especially if they're bringing someone in, they're more likely to do something about it. If Nancy in HR is doing this survey and goes, here's the results, I think you're right. One of the other issues is even if they get it, then it's about, or well, who's going to be accountable for the action, right? And so things fall off there too. I can say, here's your action plan. One of the things I like to do before I exit is, and Steve's going to be in charge of this by this
yeah,
deadline, right? And this is how
yeah.
he's going to do it. So you get that follow through built in. So I do think that that's kind of helpful. But once you do have someone kind of coming in and doing that, it becomes a rhythm. The most important thing, though, is to see that action happen. If somebody gives a piece of feedback, an action takes place, you're going to see the participation go up on the next one.
Being human.
Yeah.
That's what humans are. We ask for something, if it's, I mean, that's the thing. Like you said, you call customer service. You get AI. You're like, son of a gun. I just want to
Yeah.
talk to a human. Well,
Talk
we
to
won't
a
dive into, yeah,
representative.
just because, it's a specific question, but you answered it so well. It's how you present it. You go to the employees, like you said you do,
Mhm.
and go, it's here to grow the company, but give you a voice. I'm
Yeah.
making up words, but that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Joe Smith, you have a voice in the company. We need to hear what your voice is.
And I think that there's a lot, if you hop in LinkedIn and you look at all of the chatter about surveys and things, there's also a lot of debate back and forth about anonymous surveys versus not anonymous surveys and things like that. Because I am a huge proponent of psychological safety, I do think that especially in these organizations where maybe there hasn't been a consistent employee listening infrastructure, or there has been and participation has been very low, I do think you have to start with anonymity until you've built up the trust through the action to open the door to the safety of not anonymous feedback.
Yes. So this is so good, Jeannie. I just met you, and this is so powerful because it could be anonymous to 100 people, and 50 of them say that the beer bash on Fridays, beer Fridays sucks.
Yeah.
Nobody's going. The beer, and you stop it. Well, 50 people just got a checkbox like they listen to us.
Mhm.
And then you lead into more, okay, give us your name so we can talk to you. It's a
Yeah.
wonderful idea.
You have to kind of kick these things off, not assuming that you have the trust, but with the intention of building the trust,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Audience, remember that. That is the greatest quote I've heard in a long time. Build the trust. Don't expect that you have trust already, especially when you're not talking to your employees. And
Yeah.
even if you're talking to your employees, the CEO could walk around like, hey, Jeannie, hey, Steve, how's it going? Oh, it's going great. And that's all you're doing? He doesn't know what the heck's going on. I could be saying I'm working 80 hours a week. I'm getting nowhere. My paycheck's the same.
Mhm.
CEO needs to hear that, or HR or directors,
Well,
leaders
yeah.
of the company.
And on the flip side of that, the other part of trust, this is well, I'm not gonna say the other part. The main part of trust in this scenario, it is really in how it's received also. So if you are a CEO or a leader who understands the importance of this and is going to engage in it, no pun intended, then you need to make sure that you're ready to sort of, with emotional intelligence, take whatever comes your way, right? Because I promise you, some of it is going to sting. Some of it you're going to be tempted to take personally. But you, just as you're saying to the employees, I need you to trust that we're asking for your feedback because we want to better this place, that they are delivering the feedback for you to process so that you can make it better as well. Feedback is a gift. So,
It really is. And here's the other side of it, just came up, the leaders I talked to, is the feedback could be, something, but they just can't do it.
yes,
It's a no, but
yes,
explain that no to
yes.
the employees. Hey, we can't do, I'll go back to Beer
Yeah.
Fridays, because it's $5,000. And right now we've upped our marketing and we can't afford to do that at this time. Something like that,
But
right?
that's an action. What you just said is an act, right?
Ah,
And action doesn't we all learn this as children, unfortunately. Action isn't always a yes, right?
yeah.
But what you just did, even by saying we can't, is you said, I heard you. I heard you. I understand why you think this. We can't do this right now. Here are some things we can do though. And I do understand where you're coming from. This is why we can't. Not even just no, but here's why not. Because that's a
So,
two-way
yeah.
street.
I'm thinking, you got my head spinning. The Ghostbusters got the red line through it, the
Yeah.
circle.
Yeah.
You should put a circle that says deaf ears with a red line through it. You
Yeah.
want no deaf ears.
Yes.
Deaf
Yes.
ears are
Yeah.
crumbling companies
Yeah.
left and right. I mean, especially with everything else going on, which we won't talk about. So let's educate especially our
Yeah.
founders and leaders more. And entrepreneurs need to know this too, I think.
Yeah.
What's the biggest mistake they make when it comes to employee engagement?
Well, definitely, we've already kind of hit on it, but the biggest mistake is asking for feedback and not doing anything about it.
Okay.
The lack of action, because that's the only thing, and I would never say to somebody, don't ask for that feedback, don't do employee listening, but doing it and not taking action is actually worse. So if you're not going to take action, don't ask. Right. And that's a little bit the same thing as the secondary mistake is asking too much, right? Don't ask for feedback on things you know you can't change or you're not going to do anything about. Because then you're just pouring, fuel onto the fire of frustration. So make sure that you're only asking a reasonable number of questions around things that you really genuinely can make a difference around.
Very. My mind's spinning, but I do want to ask this. So let's build an image, Jeannie.
Yeah.
What does a healthy employment engagement company look like?
So I think that they are doing the Gallup 12. I think that they are then looking specifically at their, let's say, three lowest scoring sections, and maybe that's the belonging question, maybe it's the resources question, and maybe it's the manager question, right? Well, if it's the manager question, then I'm going to make sure I'm also going to do a manager survey, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm gonna do it at two levels. I'm gonna do an IC version, and I'm gonna do a manager level version to see where the disconnect is. Same questions, two different sides of the same question being asked.
Yep.
I also, when I do that, make sure that my middle managers are taking both, because I like to assess my ELT managers separately from my middle managers, because there's often a gap between those two. Um, and then whatever my other lowest, what did I say? I said well-being and resources. I'm going to do pulse surveys on both of those, right? And then I'm going to do full reports, breaking down those days. I'm going to do them once a month. I'm not going to do them all at the same time. I'm going to do one survey a month, right? Produce a report, make an action plan, and I'm going to share that with the company. That's kind of the first step of what that looks like. And I
Right.
think once you start doing that, if you start seeing a participation rate at 80% or above,
You're really doing good.
you're doing
You're
pretty
becoming
well.
healthier. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're healthier company. Last question. Um, should we have grades on these? Should we put a feedback out and go, okay, Steve, you got a B, Jeannie, you got a D. We need to work on these things. Is that where feedback comes from?
I
Okay.
don't, well, so now you're talking about kind of performance management. I think those are two totally
Two
separate, right?
different.
One is
Okay.
about the employee experience, and then one is, I think, manager direct report. And you can bring me back and we can talk about that on another day.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in terms of the only thing that I think should have a grade in terms of employee listening is the annual engagement score. The Gallup 12 does it out of a scale of 5. And the only reason I do that is so that the next year when you do it, you can see if you've gone up or down. When you do the scoring on that, each of the 12 sections of the pyramid gets scored also. So you kind of, it's for comparison, really, to see, like, did we grow? Did we do a better job in these the next year? Not to look at any individual and say, because again, if we're going to do this anonymously, we're not going to know. Sometimes you can tell, depending on the size of the company, on the manager one,
Right.
like where we're falling. I will say, one of the things that I've learned in a company that I worked with doing the manager one was we learned that, oh, the middle managers were doing a great job with their direct reports, but there was that gap I mentioned between ELT,
Mm-hmm.
so much so that we brought in outside psychological safety training for the executive leadership team. Right? So that kind of stuff is important so you can measure solutions and compare between the next year. Like, okay, so did that work? Or did it not? So that's the only reason I would put any kind of grade on it, is to compare how, as an organization, you are doing in terms of
Yeah.
growth.
Exactly. You're a B this year, next year a B plus.
Yeah.
You're growing. You're
Yeah.
taking care of it, so you don't have any dips. Let's end with a fun question. Let's get to know Jeannie a little bit
Okay.
better. So I'm coming out to your area. I'll reserve
Yeah.
a table at a restaurant, your favorite restaurant.
Okay.
Be me and you, and I want you to invite 3 people,
Oh,
dead or alive, who
okay,
have been
great.
influential in your life, who've made that difference, whether you've read them, whatever that may be.
Hmm.
And then for me, I want you to order food for the table. So what would that food be?
This is great. I'm going to my favorite restaurant tonight for dinner. So this
Oh,
is
there we
good.
go.
Okay. So, and I already looked at the menu. I know what I'm gonna get. So I think normally, to answer this question, I say like Steve Irwin, because what a great conversationalist that would be. But in terms of inspiring me, I'm not gonna put Steve Irwin on the list. I would say my mother, who unfortunately passed away about a year ago. I
Oh,
would definitely bring her to the table. And then I would bring Adam Grant. And for the purpose of this conversation, I would bring probably Robert Waldainer, who was the head research psychologist in charge of Harvard's 80-year happiness study. He passed away, I think, a year or two ago also. But he had the actual research and data that unlocks the keys. So I would bring him to talk to us about all those results about the world's greatest, longest happiness study.
It's a
And I
brilliant
would order
table.
the pub chips.
The pub chips. There we go. We can talk and eat pub
Yeah.
chips. I've got a lot of work ahead to bring people back from the dead, but that's okay.
Yeah.
We'll work on that. See what I can do.
Yeah.
Jeannie, thank you for taking the time, being an incredible guest.
Thanks, Steve.
I know people listening would love to connect with you. How can they do that?
Yes. So my website, my company is Kadera Culture Consulting. So my website is www.kadera, Kidera, cultureconsulting.com. And you can also find me on LinkedIn.
Beautiful. And I'll have all the information in the show notes, a description for YouTube and all that, and you'll be able to connect with her. Jeannie, thanks again. And audience,
Yeah, thank you.
share this link out. If you got
I
people
absolutely
you
will.
Yeah, and it's you audience could also do, you're talking to somebody they're having struggle with their company and you can hear they're just not happy. That's the word I do listen for, or no joy. My employees are complaining. Share this podcast because it's truly a gift. You can make an impact in somebody's life because she's doing it already with the people she's working with. So with that being said, me and Jeannie want to thank everybody for watching or listening to this podcast, and we'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.